Hello friends, welcome to the first video of this vi- video series. In this video we'll be discussing the very fundamental and basic questions of the language VbScript. So first thing that would be coming in your mind is why we are starting with VbScript. It is because of the reason that the tool that we are going to learn, that is QTP UFT, uses is VbScript. So basically unless and until someone knows the fundamentals and the concepts of VbScript, he cannot perform good in QTP. Even though you know all the concepts of QTP, but in order to do well in interviews, in order to do well in practical projects, we need to understand VbScript first. So let's start with this 11 questions of VbScript. There will be many more, but in this video we will be covering only this 11 questions. So as soon as you open your tool UFT, you'll be coming to this landing page. So let's start by writing a new test and name it as VbScript part 1. Okay, let's paste me all my questions, and we can add one more question to it is how do we do the commenting in VbScript. Okay, so in order to do the commenting in VbScript, what we need to do is we have to press Control plus M. Okay, so let me select all this and say Control M. This will add a comment into the VbScript. Also, we can add individual line comment, like we can go to that line and add a asterisk mark there in order to add a comment, and then whatever I write on this line, that will not be executed. The commented portion of the code never gets executed. Also, there is a preserved keyword in VbScript that is known as rem. Okay, we can use this to comment a line of code in VbScript. Now the second question comes as, what is a variable? So a variable is a named memory location which is used to store a value. That means we don't know what memory address has been provided to a variable, and that is why we say it as a named memory location. And memory location, so internally it might be assigned some address as 1001 or 1,01,000 whatever, but what we know that memory location is through the name of the variable. Okay, so we use name to assign any value to store that value into that particular memory location. Okay, now the second question is, how is the variable declared in VbScript? So in order to declare any variable in VbScript, we need to use a keyword that is known as dim. So we have to use the keyword dim, and then we have to give the var name. That's it. In this way we declare the variable in VbScript. We can also declare multiple variables in one go, that is x, y, z, like this in VbScript as well. Also what we can do is that we can define a variable in a single line, int x let's say, and then we can do the value assignment as well. So here I'm just defining one variable. In line number 12 I'm defining multiple variables in one go. Here what I'm doing, I'm defining a variable that is dimx and allocating a value at the same time. Okay. Now the third question is, how do I take a input value in a program. Let's say I want to take an input from a Excel sheet or from a user or whatever. Okay, how do I take, not from Excel sheet, if I want to take an input from a user, like while executing the program, how do I take the input value? Okay, so in order to take it, there is a keyword in VbScript that is known as input box. So if I say dim x and I say x is equal to input box, and then an input box, what you have to give? You have to give a message that will be displayed to user. Please, let's say, enter a number. Okay, so when this line of code will be executed, you'll see a dialog box with a edit box inside it that will be displayed to a user, and user will be asked to enter some value into that edit box. Whatever value user enters into that edit box will be assigned to X. Now we know how to take the input from the user. Now the question comes, how can we print the output? Okay, so there are two preserved keywords again. One is the print statement, and then in print, in both the statements you have to give the variable name. This will print the output in console, and then there is another statement that is message box. This will again the variable name, and this will print as a dialog box. Okay, that means you'll get a dialog box with whatever value you are trying to print. So here if I say print the value that we have taken from user in step number 19, that is print x, this will print me whatever value user enters into console. And if I say message box, the value this will print me the value in a dialog box. Okay, now our next question is VbScript a case sensitive language? The answer is no. VbScript is not a case sensitive language. What does that mean? This means that all the predefined preserved keywords of VbScript, we can use them in any case. Okay, like we have written the above statement. Okay, this is statement. Let me copy this, print it here. I am saying dim str, let's say, take a name from the user. Now look, input box is what? This is a preserved keyword of VbScript. If I want, I can write as input input, b in small, and then o in again in capital. It doesn't matter how do I write it. Okay, let's try to print the value. So message box, it doesn't matter again. How do I use the case of this? Till the time I'm using the correct word, it is okay. Okay, and then I'll give a message. The name entered is okay. That's it. Now a very fundamental and a very basic, very important question, that is how many types of data type are there in VbScript? So there is only one kind of data type in VbScript, that is known as variant. Okay, so VbScript, remember VbScript has only one fundamental data type, that is known as variant. We can, okay, so whenever we declare any variable in VbScript, it is by default declared by this particular data type. Okay, we cannot declare a variable with data types like string or integer or any other thing. Okay, we can only declare a variable with a data type known as variant. Okay, then there's a question, then what is this string and integers? Okay, these are what? These are the sub types in we say them as a subtypes in VbScript. Okay, so whenever we define a variable, let's say dim test, internally it is defined as a variant. Okay, as soon as you assign a value to it, okay, it takes the data type. The data type of this variant of this variable will now be converted as per the value assigned. So since I have assigned a string value to it right now, it will become a string. Okay, if I say str test, if I go on and assign a integer value to it and I try to find out the data type of this variable, now it will be what? It will be a integer. Okay, now the question comes, is it possible to use a variable without declaring it in VbScript? Yes, it is possible to use a variable without declaring it. Why is it possible? Because in VbScript there is only one data type, that is variant. Irrespective of you define a variable or not, all the variables will be by default initiated with this particular data type, and that is why variable declaration is not mandatory in VbScript. I can directly write str test1 is equal to Udemy or anything. Okay, and my program will not throw me any error. Now my ninth question is, what is option explicit? So option explicit is a predefined keyword in VbScript which makes variable declaration mandatory. This makes variable declaration mandatory. So as we know that in VbScript, defining a variable is not mandatory, but if you write option explicit in your program, this has to be the first line of your program. Okay, this first line in the program. Then if I try to execute this statement, it will throw me an error saying that this variable is not defined. If there is no option explicit return, then you are free to use a variable without defining it. Like in this case, since we have not written any option explicit, the program will not throw any error. Now, if I want to know the data type of a variable, how do I know the data type of a variable? So let's define a variable dim data type name. Okay, so there is a predefined keyword that is type name, and inside this you have to pass the variable name in order to get the data type. Okay, and let me assign few values to this data type, to the variable that we defined right now. Let's say Canada, and let's say 10 here, an integer value here. Now let's try to print the data type of this particular variable here. How will I print? I use the statement message box, and in message box what I have to do in order to know the data type, I have to use type name variable. Okay, type name preserved keyword, and here I have to pass the variable name. Okay, so this will print me what? This should print me as string in this case. And similarly, after assigning an integer value to that variable, if I try to print it here, it should give me a integer here. Okay, now my last question is it possible to fix the data type of a variable? In VbScript it is not possible. Okay, That means if I want that a variable should store only integer values or string values, that is not possible. You see here in this example, I declared a variable, then I assigned integer to it, then I assigned a I assigned a string to it, then I assigned an integer to it. Again, I'm free to assign any value. Okay, that means again I can go on and assign again in string value to it. Okay, VbScript doesn't stops us to do that. Okay, now let's try to execute this program and see how the output comes. So firstly, we saw how to take the input in VbScript. So I told you as soon as this statement will be executed, you'll be seeing a dialog box and with the message that you have entered, please enter a number. And as soon as I hit OK button, this value will be assigned to the variable X. Now we are seeing how the values are displayed to the user. If I want to do output, how do I print the message? So here it is. If I use print statement, the value will be printed in the console. If I use a message box statement, the value will be displayed in a dialog box. Then we went ahead and see, is VbScript a case sensitive language? No. Even though I write input box like this, my statement is executing perfectly. Okay. I can assign the values, I can print the values, whatever I do. Now we went ahead and see how to know the data types of the variable. So type name is the function which gives me the data type. In this case, it is printing me string. Then I assign an integer value that is printing me integer. Then again I assigned a string value, it is printing me string. So that brings an end to this particular video. Let's meet in the second video.